Morning, everyone. My name's Fausto Marasco, as you can see up there on the slide. I'm going to be talking today about contact centres for the mobile phone generation. So let's kick off. Obviously, as we've mentioned, this is all about mobile phones and for contact centres. And I know we all know that mobile phones have overtaken landlines as the choice of device when making a phone call. But I wonder how many of you appreciate really how much that landscape's changed. You know, today in Australia, there are over 35 million mobile phones, yet there's only 8 million landlines. According to the ACMA, in fact, 41% of Australians now only use a mobile phone for voice calls, which is quite significant, and mobile devices are now the most popular method of accessing the internet. Now, a consequence of this ready access to data and mobile devices means that not only are the current generation the mobile phone generation, they're also, in fact, now we could call them the Google generation. So what do we mean by this? Well, you know, we accept these days that now every customer service query starts with a Google search. Just like in the 70s and 80s, for those of you around then, the Yellow Pages phone book was the starting point for all customer queries and investigations. Now, the mobile phone has become the central tool for consumers to use. It's what they use every day, whether it's to find information or communicate with their friends. Yet the problem is that contact centres are still often entrenched using a limited number of communication channels that were implemented years ago with business practices or business processes and work practices that are decades old. Now, you know, previously businesses were leading the way in new ways to communicate with their customers. Now, in fact, I think it's the mobile phone users that have raced ahead and are far more innovative in their social communication and in the way they find information and communicate with the companies they buy from. That old role of the agent as the interface between the customer and the internal computer systems, it's becoming rapidly irrelevant as more and more businesses digitise their operation. In fact, nowadays, there's quite a disparity between the way customers communicate and the way traditional contact centres can handle those communications. Yet for organisations to be successful, they have to be able to communicate with their customers using the devices, channels and practices that their customers are using every day. Organisations have to be as digitally native as their customers are. Now, I appreciate that many organisations are struggling with their journey to digitisation. It's difficult given the complexity of the range of channels and technologies that they have to integrate. So in this presentation, we're going to provide some guidance on things you can do to provide a better experience for your customers when they contact you on their mobile phones. I'll show you some practical solutions that you can implement today. Now, these solutions are designed so that typical Australian businesses that aren't large multinationals can afford to implement them and manage them by themselves without any IT involvement. So let's start. What drives the way customers communicate? Well, you know, in fact, customers have always taken full advantage of all the channels that were available to them, whether those channels were in person, by physical mail, over the phone, using email, with web chat, SMS, or social media. Customers have always had options available to them in the way they can communicate. And over the years, more channels have become available, and supporting each new channel added more cost and complexity to the contact centre. So some contact centres, in order to reduce costs to serve the customers, tried to constrain the communication options available to their customers. Some tried to segment and predict which communication channels the customers would use based on either the business function or the demographics. But all of this was with little success. In fact, our research on this topic showed that there's actually a simpler way to understand the reason why customers would choose one channel over the other. Quite simply, customers will select the channel that's just the best and quickest way for them to achieve what they want. That's all there was to it. Now, whether that's to get information, to perform a transaction or to lodge a claim or make a purchase, they'll select the channel that's the best and quickest way for them. Now, despite popular belief, this is not exclusively driven by age demographics, and there's lots of data to show that this isn't the case. People will choose the best and quickest way in the context of the tools they're familiar with. Now, naturally, the communication tools that are popular with customers will often vary with the age of the person. But for users skilled in multiple tools, it's still the method that provides them the best and quickest way that's used. So you might have realised when considering what would be thought of as the quickest way to communicate that there's lots of new opportunities for the use of text channels. And that's true. Text is a quick, convenient and low-cost way to communicate. But there's actually an extra dimension to this that's not often appreciated. Recent research has shown that given the choice of channels, the best and quickest way to get information will change depending on what the information is. So for short, simple snippets of information, text messaging or SMS, absolutely preferred. But for large amounts of complex information, that's where voice is still preferred. Now, demographics does play a part in this, and obviously not everyone has adopted text. And that's because quickest implies familiarity with the tool of the channel. Think about it, the tools you're familiar with will always be the ones that are fastest for you. So for older people, a phone call may be quicker than learning how to text or learning how to use social media. But younger people who are already familiar and fluent in texting and know all about social media, they'll evaluate these choice of channels differently. The answer will be different for them. Another thing the research has shown is that the topic of conversation also has a significant impact in the choice of channels. Consider this example that I've put up on the slide. Our customer wants to order something. Now, online self-service is available, so of course they're happy to use it and give it a try. But if they have a problem, they may turn to web chat to resolve the issue, particularly if they're multitasking at the time. After all, it's a convenient way to do it. If they encounter further problems, though, or feel that the issue is not going to get resolved in the time frame they require, that's when we find they switch to voice channels. What the research has shown is when the topic is urgent or personal, voice is the best way to communicate because it's the best way to get across urgency and need. Remember, voice still offers the best way to communicate emotions. It's the best way for people to gauge whether the person they're communicating with has really understood the significance of the urgency of what they're trying to achieve. In this example, you can see the guy will definitely get online, try things themselves, but if things don't go to plan and you can see a situation's urgent for him, he's got to get the delivery done today for his wife's birthday, the only way he'll know whether the other party's really got on board with his sense of urgency is actually speaking to them. Another tip, though, for people building brand loyalty, voice is actually the best channel to use when organisations want to create genuine human connections, and that's to convey empathy and understanding, because you can do it via voice in ways that's just simply not possible in a text-based environment. I mean, we're all humans. We understand emotions, and I'm sure you'd all appreciate the feeling you get from a good conversation with someone will always exceed what you could get from a good text exchange with someone. What businesses have to realise that in the same way that consumers will select the communication channel that's best and quickest for their needs, so too organisations should also be ready to use different channel, moving the conversation from one channel to another to better achieve their own goals. Now, whether that's to build empathy or build brand loyalty or to serve the customers more effectively. So, where does it all start? We've talked about the different communication channels available to customers, and we've also talked about why customers might choose one channel over the other. But customer service doesn't start with the first call into the contact centre. And the industry's talked a lot about customer journey, yet all too often what we've seen is many organisations have taken too narrow a focus or focused too narrowly on a segment of the customer journey. Many organisations have only concerned themselves with the parts of the customer journey that transition through the contact centre. But these days, as I've already mentioned, all customers' journey starts with an online search. And we all acknowledge that most customer inquiries these days or customer processes start online. And today, the most popular device for online searches is the mobile phone. Now, most organisations are putting a lot of effort into their digital presence online, but websites won't provide all the information that a customer needs. Sometimes customers actually may need to reach out and speak to the contact centre. And for a customer on a mobile phone, well, this is easy. They can make the transition from using the browser on their phone to making a call on their device. Yet very few companies handle this transition well. Many don't handle these as two consecutive stages of the same customer journey. Unfortunately, many see these as two separate processes and don't provide any continuity or consistency in the way they handle their customers through this transition. And yet, to offer your customers a better experience when they contact you, you need to know their browsing history or what they were doing on the website that prompted the call. On a mobile phone, like I said, we can make this transition far more seamless. Right from within the browser of your phone, you can offer your customer the ability to either web chat or talk with your contact centre if they have a question or need some more information. Now, using the capability of the mobile phone, you can offer your customers choices in the channels they choose and let them decide whether the question's short and can easily be handled by a text chat, or whether the question's more complex and needs to be discussed by voice. Either way, you're going to be providing your customer with choices and enabling them to select the channel they prefer, which will result in a better experience for their needs. The use of multiple channels for different types of communications these days is actually becoming quite the norm. And that's why we say these days, omni-channel is the new normal. Now, I'm sure you've all heard about the term omni-channel. It's been used to describe contact centre technology that can handle multiple channels of customer communications. But it's rarely used to describe the customers that reach out to contact centres these days. But appreciate that a mobile phone's inherently an omni-channel device, and naturally a customer using their mobile phone will contact you using all the capabilities that a mobile phone's got to offer. You know, these days we have to start thinking about our online presence actually as a channel and be prepared to handle and support our customers as they jump from channel to channel, including online presence. You know, mobile phones offer us so much more functionality to landlines. So much so, in fact, that we need to start considering breaking away from the traditional call centre practices that were based on the capabilities of the landline and start supporting the new capabilities and features of mobile phones with new contact centre practices that take full advantage of those features. You know, if we're serious about improving the experience that we offer our customers and willing to take full advantage of what a mobile phone has to offer, then we should be questioning all the traditional contact centre practices that were based on constraints of landline phones that just don't apply to mobile phones anymore. Let's consider one of the most fundamental aspects of contact centres, call queuing. Now, all the processes around call queuing were created when customers were using landlines. When customers made calls on their landlines, they were tethered to the location the phone was installed at, right? They couldn't move around, so quite literally had to put their life on hold while they were making the call. They were stuck listening to hold music, unable to go anywhere. Now, back then we had no choice, because for callers on landlines, there's really little benefit in offering a queue callback, because if they wanted to receive the callback, they still had to remain there next to the phone. More so, if a contact centre wanted to try calling them back later, you really had no guarantee the customer would still be there to answer the call when you called. You knew you'd be calling back the same location or home, but you had no guarantee the same person would answer. Think about how differently it is with mobile phones. Mobile phones are a personal device, so when we call a mobile phone, we know exactly who's going to answer the phone. If we want to improve the customer experience for our mobile phone users, then when these customers call, we should be using the browser capability of the mobile phones to immediately provide them with some information about what's happening in the centres. After all, we can. And let them choose whether they want to wait on hold or whether they want to receive a call back at either a specific time or when an agent's available. The slide we're showing you there is actually the personal queuing page from our mobility package. Now, this is something that we provide mobile phone users whenever they call and end up in queue. We let them know what the wait time is and let them decide whether they want to wait on hold or receive a call back. After all, if you're calling someone back on a mobile phone, you know you're going to get through to them. Really, for a call on a mobile phone, there's no need to keep them waiting on hold because, like I said, when we call a customer back on a mobile, we know we're going to be able to reach the exact person we set out to call. And given that people always carry the mobile phone with them wherever they are, we know we're going to be able to reach them. Now, this capability is not hard to do. It's delivered right out of the box, and you can manage it yourselves in the contact centre without any IT involvement. So, I mentioned previously that I'd give you some example of things you can do right now to help improve the customer experience for your mobile phone users. And I thought I'd put these suggestions together in the form of a typical scenario that would probably be familiar to most of you or typical of your organisations. So, to deliver a better customer experience, we have to stop thinking about a customer's phone call or web chat in isolation and actually think more broadly about the end-to-end contact process. Each part of that process should be handled in a method that's best and quickest for the customers to use. Mobile devices mean that we're no longer limited to just voice communications. Instead, we can use all the channels we can use each of the channels that's best for the part of the process to deliver the best experience possible. So let me show you some things you can do today with minimal setup effort and no integration or IT support. Starting off on this example, like most people, our typical customer is trying to organise his life all on the go. And in this example, he wants to organise a new connection with his preferred electricity company. Now, he starts off, as we all do, obviously, by looking at the website. Now, like most of us, he'll give self-service options a go. After all, there's lots you can do on your mobile phone. And remember, the guiding principle is the best and quickest way for the user. In many situations, the customer would be able to complete large parts of the process themselves. They might be able to enter their details or even make product selections browsing web pages on their mobile phone. But this could just as easily be done on their tablet or PC. However, sometimes not all the process can be completed digitally. Sometimes there's a need to speak to an agent. Now, given that the customer started the inquiry on the browser, we can still use the capabilities of the browser to present a visual menu as part of your website to enable the customer to select the team they want to speak to. Presenting the menus visually is far easier for the customer to use than an audio IVR menu, and it ensures that the customers can work through the menus in the best and quickest way with the tools they've got available to them so that we have a smoother rather than disjointed transition between channels. Now, all these pages you're seeing are designed using our visual design tools that can be managed by your own team without the need for external IT support. And I thought I'd give you a look at what one of these pages look like. In this example, what I'm showing you is the page designed for mobile phone form factor on our design tool. From what you can see there, it's a tile-based design tool. You just add the tiles on the page and drag these around. But these tiles aren't just limited to mobile phones. You can create pages for iPads or tablets or even desktop environments just as easily and serve those pages there as well. Now, let's say the customer transitions to actually speaking to an agent. Well, speaking to a customer on a mobile phone is also a much simpler process to coordinate. After all, a mobile phone customer is far more accessible than a landline customer, so we can use voice as part of the business process because we know we'll always be able to reach them. In this example, we've had the customer complete the new connection process using a recorded verbal contract that can be done right there as part of the call, rather than having to send them a form, getting to fill it out and send it back. Remember, the aim is to use the best and quickest way for all the channels that are available to the customer for that part of the process. And with the recording of a verbal contract, the customers ended their process and have gotten what they wanted. But then what about the important details that the customer might want to record from the call, like maybe a reference number or confirming that the agent got the right connection date and the right connection address? How could you provide that information to the customer in a way that's both convenient for them? Now, remember, they're on the go, so they don't have the ability to write down details. Now, we know that a customer on a mobile phone has the ability to receive SMSs, browse the web and receive emails. So one option we offer is to enable the agent to send the customer an SMS link with an SMS with a web link to a private contact summary page. And this works on all mobile phones. It doesn't require you to install an app on the phone. From the summary page delivered in the browser, the customer can review all the details that were agreed on the call and have confidence with what they covered. Additionally, if you want, you can also provide the customer with the ability to reactivate the call if they wanted to change any of the details. Remember, reactivating the call through this mechanism will provide the agent with all the details about the call before they actually speak to the customer, so that when they do speak to the customer, they're primed and ready to go. Providing a summary of all the details discussed in the call, it's a great way to deliver a better experience for the customer, particularly for customers that are using their mobile phones while on the go. And this is a simple feature you can add right now with next to no IT support, and something that's really greatly appreciated by customers. Of course, we know all organisations want to receive feedback from the customers, and traditionally this is involved by us asking the customers to stay on the phone at the end of the call to complete a survey. But this isn't always convenient for customers who are either time constrained or on the go. For customers that have called from a mobile phone, actually, there's no need to worry about the constraint of having to complete the customer survey as part of that same call. So our solution to improve the response rate from customers using mobile phones is to actually send them an SMS at the end of the call with a link to a survey. This allows the customers to respond to the survey when they've got time and it's convenient for them. Now, by implementing customer surveys as a web page also, you have far more options in the questions you ask and are not just constrained in getting simple single-digit responses. Once again, delivering customer service this way is something you can add quite easily now. You can design and deploy your own forms without any IT support. So on the talk today, we've covered a number of things, showing some of the exciting capabilities that mobile phone brings, particularly to the way contact centres can communicate with their customers. Now, remember, when it comes to the selections of which channel to use, customers will choose the best and quickest way available to them when they need to communicate. Now, they might select one method when their communication needs to be quick, and another method when their communication needs to be meaningful or convey emotion. Your role as contact centres is to be able to receive those communications in a manner that's seamless and convenient for the customer. And we realise that many contact centres might think they're a long way off this type of capability and are unsure what to do next, whether to focus on digitisation or focus on maintaining their customer satisfaction ratings. But my message to you is actually not to worry. You can do both. You can still make progress by taking small steps, introducing simple and digestible advances like the ones I've shown to you today in a way that's comfortable for both you and your customers. So I hope the examples I've shown you today would be of interest and value to you. Now, I picked these examples because they're simple and easy to deploy. They'll let both you and your customers take advantage of the existing functionality of mobile phones to improve the nature of the communication with your organisation. That ends the presentation, and I take it now we'll hand over to questions. We got a question from Fernando. So Fernando asks, what value would you give to a phone call over a simple email when it comes to contacting customer about queries? Good question, Fernando. Actually, there's been a fair bit of research on this point. What organisations are finding is when asking customers about the preferences of one channel versus the other, some of the research out there has shown that if customers start the interaction with you over say a simple impersonal channel like an email, they quite often either would be happy with an email response back, but also quite receptive to a voice call back. So customers seem to appreciate increasing a channel with increased emotion or increasing richness. But what they don't appreciate is actually the other way around. So if you start off with a phone call and then drop down to an email, people really are looking for a richer, better response back rather than a lower value response. So certainly customers dropping you an email, there's no problem at all with responding back via a phone call. In fact, what a lot of our customers say is they actually prefer to keep away from emails as a response, because the problem is you can rarely ever bring an issue to a close with an email. Often what customers will find, you shoot an email back, and if it doesn't answer the questions, the customer will respond with another email and you go back and forth. Whereas responding to an email with a phone call, you can not only answer their first question, but also any follow-on questions. So phone calls following email, definitely a good idea, and something that I know a number of our customers do. Got another question from Kenneth. Kenneth asked, one of the issues that they find is in implementing new systems is developing APIs that connect with the rest of our system. He said he's guessing these types of technology are at the stage they integrate well. Kenneth, one point on the technologies that we use, we use web-based REST APIs. Now, what that means, those of you who are old as I am would know, from the days of doing integration to proprietary systems, it was actually really quite complicated. What we've found these days with web-based APIs, definitely much simpler, a lot less effort to involve. So certainly something that can be done quite simply these days with really a lot less effort that was done previously. Also a lot more flexibility in the way you can communicate to different systems. So in integrating the systems to other internal systems, yeah, definitely much easier to do. Interesting question from Paul. How do we overcome spamming on mobile outbound and texting numbers? Paul, actually these days, what we're finding is customers are far more keen to receive a phone call from a mobile number rather than a landline number. So the punch-through rate or the take-up rate in calls from mobile numbers is certainly higher than you're getting with landlines. That we're seeing that generally customers aren't finding that that's as much of a problem. Like with all things, particularly if you're sending out texts to your customers, you do have to be mindful of the volume and nature of the messages that you send. Could I recommend one thing to the audience, though? If you're sending out SMSs, it's well worth getting your own dedicated SMS number. I know there are a number of third-party SMS agencies out there that'll send SMSs out on your behalf. Now, often these organisations will use shared numbers. So callers will receive an SMS from XYZ organisation, and on that same number, then they might receive an SMS from your organisation. Unfortunately, you've got no control over who else was sending SMSs from that bureau, and many of those numbers, unfortunately, get blocked on users' phones or start getting disregarded because they're just not considered, well, because the customers didn't find those messages relevant. So, we can certainly provide you with your own dedicated number. That way you can control the messages that go out to your customer base from that number. And I've got a call from Jeff, one of our customers. And yes, Jeff, you can implement all those examples. I'll get one of the guys, your account guys, to give you a call to show you how you can do those type of things. Thanks everyone for your questions, most appreciated. Certainly want to thank you all for participating today. Great to meet you digitally this way, and look forward to catching up with you at a physical trade show or at the next webinar one time.